My check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and one of the questions that I've recently got is when does it become too much? When does video game collecting become obsessive? When does the collection start to take over your life? And when does it just become a situation where enough is enough and you kind of are just, over it? And I think that that point varies from person to person. I think some people start off building their collections with an end goal in mind, like they have a certain number of games they're targeting, they have certain types of games that they're targeting, they have an idea of what they ultimately want their collection to look like. And perhaps they set timelines for themselves based on, their budget and how much money they're able to set aside each month or week to buy and add video games to their collection. And you have people who have that. You have other people who are just indefinite, arbitrary collectors. There's no end to where, their collecting will stop. They have no collection goals in mind. And there's really no boundaries. There's no parameters. You know, um, there's nothing that, they have set in terms of what they're willing to buy and not willing to buy. If they see a video game, they're going to buy it and they're going to add it to their collection. And I think you have, different types of people who have different expectations. Also, there's different motivating factors. You have those people who are just simply trying to reclaim their youth. You have some people who are trying to reclaim a youth that they never had. Actually, you have people who go out there and collect all the games that they probably wish they could have gotten when they were younger, but they just never had the money to get them, or maybe their parents never wanted to buy them for them. You've got different, motivations. You have people who are influenced by maybe their friends, social media, YouTube. They see certain channels, certain people with these large collections, and then they turn around and get influenced to go and buy a bunch of video games. For me personally, I think that there will be a few indicators that the collecting is, I'm good with my collection. One of the first things I think for me, and this has started happening already, and it's been happening over the last, couple years/months, is when you go from wanting to just add video games to wanting to curate your collection. And by curating the collection, I mean purging out the games that you really have no connection to, no ties to. Maybe at one point you wanted to play them or have them in your collection, but you realize they're not the games that you want. And you start to move those out of your collection, whether it be by selling them off or by trading them away. I think that's one of the first signs that, your mindset towards collecting and your collection is starting to shift. I think another sign for me is when you're not constantly thinking about the hunt. You're not trying to plan when your next video game hunt is going to be. You're not going on the different apps like eBay and Mercari, or even, Best Buy or Target, or even some of the video game company websites like Limited Run. When you're not doing that and you're more focused on other things, I think that's another big indicator. Also, when you find yourself at a place where you're playing more of your games than you are, researching them, when you spend more time playing the games, taking out the consoles, enjoying what you have, when you start enjoying the collection that you have and playing your games, and you're less worried about the newest edition, I think that's when you're starting to hit that point where enough is enough. I think I have what I want. I'm good with what I've got, and I want to kind of chill out and just enjoy the collection that I have. And I think a lot of people, especially in 2025, have hit that point. A lot of them are at the space where it's like, you know what, I enjoy my collection. I like my retro collection or my video game collection. I'm good with what I have. And I'm just going to go ahead and sit back and play my games. Now, obviously, there are things that can change the way people feel about collecting all the time. When you introduce a brand new console like the Switch 2, depending on the exclusive games that are, released for the Switch 2, that could make someone say, you know what, I think I want to get a Switch 2. Or, you know, I think I want to get these 2 games or these 3 games for the Switch 2. And the next thing you know, you've started a Switch 2 collection and now you're picking up Switch 2 games. So I think for collectors, I don't know if there's a necessary start and stop time. Like, you know, this is where you start collecting and then this is where you stop collecting and you never buy video games again. I do believe that it's an ebb and a flow. You have seasons where you're like, I'm good. I don't need to buy any games. I'm enjoying the games that I have, and I don't, you know, I'm not going to buy anything else. I think you have seasons where you're like, you know what, I have too much. I have more games than I can play, and I need to sell some of these. Or you know what, I'm not even into this type of game anymore. I don't even like racing games anymore. I'm going to sell all my racing games. Or, you know, I don't even like platforming games anymore. I'm going to sell all my platforming games. Or you go into a season where you are buying, you know, and obviously there's levels to buying. You may go into a season where you're like, I'm going to buy every video game for every console that I own. Or you could go into a season where you're like, you know, I'm just going to focus on Switch games and I'm only going to focus on Switch beat 'em ups and shoot 'em ups. I think it's different for every person. But just considering with where we're at right now and the current times, I think people are getting a lot more granular, for a lack of terms. I think people are starting to get more granular with their interests in video games. I think people are becoming more specific with what they want to buy. It's not just, you know, let me go out here and buy everything that I see all willy-nilly. Again, so many things are going to impact that. How much disposable income you have, your location, your area, what's around you, the opportunities that you have to buy video games. You know, there have been so many times for me personally where I've said, you know, I'm done buying retro games, or I'm done buying video games, or I'm not buying a video game for a really long time. And then it's like right as I say that, a crazy deal drops in my lap where someone wants to sell me like 50 banger titles for like $100. Then it's like, oh, all right, now I have to take advantage of this deal. And I think that, you know, just depending on where you're at, you're going to have those points where you do run across really good deals, or a great deal might fall in your lap. But that typically happens more to people who are hunting. If you're not out there hunting, if you're not looking, if you're not seeking out deals, it's very rare that they're going to fall in your lap. So when do you know that enough is enough? It's going to vary from person to person. When is your collection too big or too small? That's going to vary from person to person. I think you just kind of have to know where you're at, what your priorities are, where you're trying to put all of your time, energy, and effort. And if you feel like, once you start to feel like video game collecting, or video games in general, not just collecting, but even playing video games, if you're just playing too many video games and other areas of your life are starting to suffer, like your health, like, you know, you're not healthy, but you have an amazing collection, or you're not healthy, but you put in 40 hours of video games a week, that doesn't make sense. You know, there obviously there are levels of what you should be prioritizing in life, and that's going to vary from person to person. So to me, it becomes too much when it starts to take over your life and it becomes the focal point of your life. And if you can keep your collecting and your game playing in check, I think it's still today one of the healthiest hobbies that anyone can participate in and have a great time. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think about that. And I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.